Hi, it's D.S. Yaxheimer, and this is another edition of The Spectre. This is a kind of a reaction video to the mid-season premiere of The Walking Dead. The show that has it's where Carl dies. Spoilers. That's what happens if you watch the show, you know. And I think it wasn't a good. It was just the episode was a thorough drag, which is what most episodes of the show have been as of late. I think the show has been. It's almost as though I didn't notice it because I used to get excited about seeing The Walking Dead, and then it became like a chore. It's like I gotta go watch The Walking Dead. It was like, oh man, I gotta go take out the garbage, or I gotta do the dishes, or I gotta punch in for work. That's how it felt. And it's almost though I didn't notice it. It's just kind of gradual between like around Terminus, that part of the show, up until the present. And so I don't know exactly why they decided to kill Carl off. After Glenn got killed by Negan, which was something depicted in the comic. It's a very graphic scene. He bashed in Abraham's head with Lucille, the baseball bat with barbed wire wrapped around it, and then he went in and did Glenn, which was kind of shocking. That was the last time the show sort of like, oh, you know, holy shit, you know, it's pretty fucked up. They did that. They depicted the scene almost parallel to the comic, and then of course afterwards, nothing really seems to happen. It just dragged. Negan's hardly in the show, really. He just seems to kind of like he's more spoken of than you know, he's sort of present. I mean, he did show up and he kind of throws down and kills somebody, or you know he has his little intimidating funny speeches, and I was kind of looking forward, like, oh, finally the show's going to pick up again and it's going to get good, and it didn't. It dragged. Just needless exposition. And I think the problem with the show is the comic book is good. The Walking Dead comic is good. It's the source material is always typically better than usually a movie or a TV show that's made about it or it's adapted to. But the show is, there's no and part of it is, I think, the after show is part of it with Chris Hardwick, the Talking Dead, because it's nothing but all he does is pump the show up, and I realize it's a promotional, it's a promotional sort of platform for the show. It is. It's for social media and all that shit. It's just what Chris Hardwick's whole career is, and I think he's a funny comedian and stuff like that. And I have nothing against him. It's not that, but There's nobody that comes up on the show that calls into the show and says, look, this show fucking sucks. That last episode blew, which would make that show more interesting. I rarely watch that show. It's boring. It's nothing but actors and writers and producers patting themselves on the back for another great episode. I mean, there's no criticism. There's nobody brought in there who was a fan of the show or is a fan of the comic that will come in there and honestly serve them a dose of some much-needed criticism, or constructive criticism, or whatever. Because the show is a drag to watch. It is. It went from being like, it would have enough story and enough action. It had the right dose of those ingredients in each episode, and now it has too much of like the soap opera and aspect of it infused with it, and it's a drag to watch. And that is that there's nobody saying, look, it's not that, like, I would love it. I've been waiting for someone to come up to that microphone, even, like, it's usually there's a question from the audience, and like, man, I'm so sick of watching this love fest for this show. It has blown for 3 seasons. Somebody to come up who's been a fan of the comic from the beginning, or somebody, or a writer, anybody, just to say how much it's shit, or one of the actors that got killed off before when the show was good, coming up like, look, man, I don't know what the fuck you guys, you guys are in your own bubble. I mean, they are in their own vacuum with the writers are, and a lot of the actors are, and all that. They are just in that vacuum, and they do not let, there's nobody coming in saying, look, this is boring. This is not in sort of sci-fi action fantasy horror series. It's just a drag to watch. It's the fucking too many Rick speeches, and you know, Maggie doing speeches, and just like, listen up everybody. Fuck that. I mean, it's fucking, I mean, yeah, I understand you need an episode of that, but not like fucking 10 episodes of it. I mean, you have to wait like 4 or 5 episodes for a mediocre episodes, and maybe a whole season for something big to happen. The rest of the show, it's just walking around, or getting supplies, or, you know, just some, and some of the deaths in the show over the past couple seasons seemed so kind of mean. There was no meaning behind it, and it was usually, sometimes it was a good character that added to the show, and they killed it off, and then you're stuck with the fucking dead weight, like Daryl. What the fuck has Daryl done in a while? Nothing. Been moping around carrying that crossbow. Daryl hasn't done shit. I mean, since his brother died and stuff, like way back then with the governor, Daryl's sucked, you know? And they spent so much time on that Beth storyline when she was in the hospital. It was Maggie's younger sister, with that group. That was a drag. Like, we gotta spend 5 episodes to kill off Beth. It just is. They just don't. It does not pick the fuck up at all. I mean, this show had a lot of its influences in George Romero's Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, which are both great zombie movies. And they take stuff from that, but they don't sort of, at least, it's not that you want to copy or steal that, but you at least want some frenetic energy at some points during the series. You need some episodes of that. I get it. You need an episode where things slow down, and you develop the story, and the characters have, you know, some character development, and all of that. You need that, of course. But you also need more episodes where it's more frenetic, there's shit going on, and it's not a fucking funeral. Okay? I mean, it was just like, right, the mid-season premiere is Carl's, basically his funeral. And everybody, you know, like, oh, I mean, it may as well have been a clip show about Carl, you know, way back from the beginning. Oh, remember just before this happened, and he was a kid, and his mom was picking him up in high school, or not high school, you know, elementary school and shit, and they were, I guess Rick and Lori were going to split up then. But it drags, and it's exactly as I said before. They're in a fucking vacuum. It's like what happened when Lucas made, like, the Phantom Menace and the prequels, the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. He was in a vacuum, and look what happened. He didn't listen to anybody, and they sucked. And these, you know, and one of the co-creators of the show is Robert Kirkman, who created the comic. And you think, well, he would be someone that would be like, you know, kind of, but there's producers and there's money involved. He's getting money thrown at him now. So it's part of why it fucking blows. Because they want it done a certain way, because they think that's what pleases their audience. And it's not. The ratings are tanking big time. Like, it was the lowest, like, by the time the mid-season finale came along there, I think they were the lowest ratings in the show's history. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. The Walking Dead sucks. This has been another edition of The Spectre. I'm T.S. Yoxheimer. I guess I won't be getting a job as a writer on The Walking Dead anytime soon, or getting on the Talking Dead show as a guest after this video, but who gives a fuck? Nobody watches my channel anyway. If you like my channel, subscribe. If you have any comments below about The Walking Dead, I'd love to hear them. Take care.